Did you miss us? I hope so, but we're back anyway. Rick's horror movie review show, Rick's rated R horror movie review show, where we review all things related to horror. Movies, TV shows, weird noises, that kind of shit. Actually, what we don't do around here is we won't investigate a creepy noise. You hear a creepy noise somewhere? You hear somebody crying? Follow the rules. Just get out of there. Don't stick around. Your drawers are opening mysteriously? Don't stick around. Don't put a GoPro. Don't record it and put it up on most social media. On the socials. Just get out of there. Call the Catholic Church. Get an exorcist. Don't fuck around with that shit. Follow the rules of horror. Follow the rules of horror and you'll be just fine. Tonight's episode. Part 7 of the fall of the House of Usher, the Pit, and the Pendulum. Let's get right into the story here because we've done 6 of these already and we sort of know where we are. The story picks up once again in 1979. And now we see Dupont and Roderick rehearsing for the court hearing to take down Fortunato. Sir, do you recognize this firm? Well, sure I do. That's a CFC form. I deal with these all the time, sure. And sir, and monsieur, is that your signature? Well, it looks like my signature, but I sure don't remember doing that signature there. I think someone's forging my signature, capiche? Monsieur, are you saying that this is not your signature? Well, what I'm saying is that's my signature. I just don't think I did it like somebody else did it. Somebody grabbed a pen and, took one of these forms and studied my signature and suddenly they're just copying it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, let's take Roderick's signature and just trace over it or something, or like a carbon copy paper or something like that. I don't know, but that sure is not my signature. It looks like mine, but somebody else must have done it, because I sure as hell did not do it. I recognize the form, but that's just not my signature. Well done, Roderick. Well done. If you are this confident, the hearing will go according to plan. Everything will be fantastic, and we will nail those pastors. That Rufus, the CEO, Griswold, he will be taken down. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but, I kind of want some, assurances here. You know what I mean? It's like, what's going to happen? You know what, let me get some tea and I'll have my wife talk to you about the assurances. How's that? I actually, the more tea, please. I prefer a glass of wine. Do you happen to have any Chardonnay? Of course, he walks out of there, and then his wife comes in, and it's his wife who asks for the assurances. And she's like, Mr. Dupont, well, I really hope that please assure me that once Roddy's out of a job tomorrow, that you'll help us and you won't leave us stranded. Why, we have 2 young children, and, we really count on his salary, and without it, we just don't know what we're gonna do. So please, Mr. Dupont, may I have your word? Mademoiselle, you have it. You have my word. I assure to you, I will help you. Under any circumstances, you will be just fine. Please, do not worry. And sure as hell, we move on to the future. Are you gonna do it now? There you are. You've been quiet this whole time. Well, you were kind of on a roll. I didn't wanna interfere because, was there really a need? You just doing your thing. It's Rick's horror movie review show, so, just do your horror movie review show. Alright, well, since you asked, I'll do it. So that's it for 1979, 1980 for now, and now it's time for us to go back to the future, Marty. That's the one. So now we have a scene between Verna and Madeline. And this is the first time when Madeline rolls up into the house and she sits. And now this is typically where Dupont and Frederick have been sitting. But now there's the scene between Verna and Madeline, and they're discussing the meeting in 1980. And this one goes on for a bit, but it's pretty creepy. This is the first time we've seen Verna engage anybody outside the family, specifically outside of the family that she's been murdering. And, well, they discussed the meeting in 1970 and 1980 and the deal that they made. And we flash forward, and there's another scene, and they continue discussing the deal. And at some point, Madeline snaps Verna's neck. And sure enough, falls to the ground. Verna falls to the ground, like, snaps her neck. Not too long after that, you hear a voice from the other side of the room behind Madeline, and all of a sudden it's Verna again, willing to discuss the deals of their terms. And Madeline's like, well, I sure know that you know who I am, and you know very well what I'm capable of. And Verna retorts with, I sure know who you are. I sure know. I sure know what you're capable of. I sure do. But don't forget what I'm also capable of. You know who I am. Oh, I know who you are. But don't you dare forget who I am too. Well, I know who you are, and I'll never forget you. You're Madeline Usher. That's right. I am Madeline Usher. I mean that's an interesting scene, but there's not much other than just talking about 1979 and 1980. Not much else happens in that scene. It's just nice and interesting because now they're both in the house where where Roderick and Dupont, Monsieur Dupont, have been discussing the conversations that time back and forth. I don't know. Yeah, this is the first time we see anybody else besides Dupont and Frederick talking about the events that have led to the children's death. And speaking of Dupont and Frederick, there's another interesting scene in there between Roderick. I'm sorry, did I say Frederick? I meant to say Roderick and Dupont. And now the conversation is starting to piss off Dupont. Dupont's getting angsty. Monsieur, this is the future again. Well, the present, I should say. Monsieur, you are just driving me around in circles. You said that I would have a confession from you, and I've received nothing. It is time for Monsieur Dupont to depart. And Roderick's like, listen, Dupont, you'll have me dead to rights on murder. Multiple murders. Just sit down. Let's talk about this. I swear, just have another shot. Come on. One more. For old time's sake. Can't do it, Mr. Dupont. This is the part of the story where you say, when you say that you will have you on mirrors, where I will have you on multiple mirrors, where I sit down on this chair, and I just return to you. You don't know me that well. You should know better than that, actually. You actually know me sort of well. And then the grandfather clock strikes. Bang, bang. And it actually has Dupont startled there for a bit because he's been hearing noises, the creaking noises that he claims is Madeline, with the door somewhat open. And I think Dupont's finally starting to get scared. Like he's been sitting in that room hearing noises, staring at Roderick the entire time, trying to get a confession. But he keeps hearing these things, and he also sees Roderick going through his hallucinations. And as he hears this clock, Roderick now says that, he expects that to be Freddy, as, every time in every episode, oh my God, you need to do your exercises. I'm now brown cow. Thank you. Every time in each one of these episodes, as a child of his has died, we've seen a ghost, or rather, we foretold the death of the child in the story, or in the episode anyway. We see him, and then we see how they died. This time, we see Annabelle. So his hallucination is not of his child as an adult, but rather he sees Annabelle, who, he called, or everybody has called, the only good Usher, or rather Dupont Dupont had, an intimate relationship with Annabelle. They were there rehearsing. They knew each other they got to know each other as friends when Roderick and Dupont back in 79 and 80 were trying to bring down Fortunato. And he called her the only Usher that was good. And Roderick retorts with, Lenore is also good. She's actually better than her because Annabelle had a broken heart. But Lenore, well, she doesn't. And anyway, the flashback is now of, not the flashback, but the vision, the hallucination is of Annabelle, young Annabelle, who we never see as an older character. We only ever see her in the flashbacks, which is interesting. I do wonder what happened there. And, the flashback of Annabelle and the young Frederick, I'm sorry. And now that for the first time we see the hallucinations that Frederick is experiencing from the perspective of Dupont. Typically, we see the hallucination from Roderick's perspective, and we see him interacting with the hallucination. And in this instance, it's his young wife with his young child. And he picks up young Frederick and carries him on his arm, and eventually he's seen in two parts, which is, I think, where the pendulum comes into place eventually in the story, huh? And he picks up young Frederick, and eventually young Frederick is separated into two parts. He was bisected somehow. We don't know what happens. What happens in the story a little later, but that's how he sees him. So he doesn't see an elder Frederick. I wonder if this is to allude that he never actually grew up. And Frederick sort of behaves like a child the entire show, doesn't he? I mean, he's afraid of elevators. He's always bowling. Not that adults can't bowl, but he does seem to have kind of a childish demeanor, like, all the time. So maybe, this is to allude that Frederick just never really grew up and he's always been a child. Maybe that's what this is. Anyway, it's just an interesting to point out that, he is the only one who he did not see at the age at which they died in his hallucinations. But anyway, Dupont sits back, Frederick sits back. We'll have him dead to rights on multiple murders, and we move on with the story. So there's a scene between Madeline and Hank, well, I think what she's trying to play at is that he's losing it, and she's talking to Hank. Hank, he's just no longer the man he used to be. And, well, I'm going to take this company from being a dirty drug business into tech. And the Usher family is going to be completely legitimate in a few years. But we must pivot. And the board must see me as the CEO of this company. It is the only way forward. And you, Hank, you must help me. We must make that happen. We must make my AI system the new money-making machine of Fortunato. And it will be a clean business, not a dirty business. That's interesting. I mean, that's sort of how it's happening right now. Madeline is finally showing her teeth, trying to take over. That's true. And then there's a scene after that where Roderick finally reveals to Frederick that Tamerlane has also died. And then there's this interaction between them two telling Freddy that he is the swing vote. And that the board is in scramble mode. And he needs Freddy, first and foremost. I need to know that I can count on you, goddammit, Freddy. You need to demolish that building. You need to call the Jersey guys and get them out there immediately. And if I can't count on you for that, then how can I ever fucking count on you for anything? It's up to you, Freddy. It's your time. You must demolish that building. God damn it, you're my son. Yeah, and Freddy's like, sir, yes, sir. Absolutely. I'll do whatever it takes. Yes, Daddy. You're the boss. You're the commander. And we're at war. And he goes back to, and then we move on. Actually, let's go back one more scene because we alluded at the beginning that they're rehearsing in 1979 for the court hearing. And the court hearing happens, but something interesting there happens as well. Roderick completely turns on Dupont. Oh, that was kind of sad. He's in the hearing. Well, I'll let you say it. Thank you. So all those rehearsed questions, he just flips them out on his side. Now it's another prosecutor. Now, Mr. Roderick, I want you to look at this form here. Do you recognize this form? Well, I sure do. That's a CFC form. I see these all the time. Sure. And Mr. Usher, do you recognize the signature on this form? Well, sure. That's my signature. Of course. Absolutely. No big deal. That's my signature right there. I inked that. Yes, I did that. Roderick Usher. Sure thing. Just the way my mama taught me. I'm sorry. Objection. Are you certain that that is your signature performed by you? Well, sure, that's my signature. Nobody else could forge such a beauty, eh? I mean, you know what I mean? That thing is a work of art. Won't you agree? Look at that thing. It's just beautiful. Mr. Roderick, and Dupont chimes in. Pardonnez-moi, monsieur, Roderick, are you 100% certain that that is actually your signature that you performed? You inked this? Oh, Monsieur Dupont, of course. That's me. I did that. That's Roddy. Old pal Roddy. Yankees fan. Let's go Yankees. You know what I mean? That's my signature, of course. That's my signature. I'm 100% of that. I'm so certain on that I'd be willing to bet on the Yanks this year. All right? That's how much I believe that that's my signature. On my mother and on the Yankees. All right? I don't think he brought up the Yankees in that scene. Oh, he did. Yeah, you must have fallen asleep or something. You missed it. All right, well, I don't recall that. Yeah, just watch it again. Anyway, point of this is that he betrayed Dupont. He betrayed the prosecution. And now he's taking the fall for all the evil stuff that Fortunato does. And as he's marching out, being marched out really in handcuffs, his wife sees him, his child sees him, and then there's another scene between Madeline and Annabelle, his wife. And Madeline's really starting to show her teeth here as well, or being real evil and nasty to Annabelle. In a scene, calling her a whore, all kinds of names that she thought that was just some game that she was playing, that was housewife to Roderick, so she didn't actually have to work, and she respected that. But now she sees that that's actually who she is. I mean, she's saying that Annabelle is a good woman, but kind of insulting her. It was really mean. Yeah, it was really Madeline's just an evil woman. No two ways about that. And she just, you never really thought, or I never considered Annabelle to be an evil woman or to be fake in any sort of way. This is just seems who she is, right? She's just a good, kind-hearted person. Supportive wife, great mother. And, yeah, it was sad to see. But, as Madeline is leaving after calling her all those nasty, horrible things, she does say something. Madeline, you are a small woman. As she's crying, Madeline, you're a small woman. Yeah, that was very powerful to call her that. Like, I think that really did hurt Madeline. Even though she didn't show any emotions, I think that cut deep. Yeah, because Madeline fancies herself, and tightened, just like Roderick does. But yeah, that was the flashback scenes. So again, in the present, now we see a scene between Roderick, and I mentioned this earlier, I would really like to see more Juno, and we did see more Juno, but I'm fearing that this might be the end of her. She wants to get off that goddamn ligadone, doesn't she? Yeah, I mean, she's been talking about being off of it, and she's been reluctantly taking it, but now it looks like she really wants to get off of it, but for some reason she needs to have her husband's consent or something. That's just weird. I think he was more just informing him that she wants to be off of it after herself consulting with the doctor the best method to move forward with that, no longer being on it. And of course, Roderick's like, remember I told you last time that I felt just kind of doing this as a PR stunt? Well, he revealed it. Damn it, Juno, I never loved you. I only married you because you could sustain so much ligadine. I found it fascinating. Yeah, man, ligadone. Well, I only married you because you could take so much goddamn ligadone without dying. You think I loved you? Ha! You're fucking wrong. Roderick Usher has only ever loved one woman. And anyway, he refuses her request to get off of it, and he tells her exactly what's going to happen to her and how she should do it if she wants to do it, but she doesn't think she's going to do it because, it would mean the relationship is over. 10% every year to reduce her intake to some number so that in 3 years she's completely off ligadone. And Juno's like, well, And he also informs her of a multitude of side effects that will accompany this withdrawal period. Expect to fart a lot, eat vomit, smell like shit, eat shit, vomit shit, headaches, nausea, diarrhea, a bum ticker, a rash, 2 rashes even, swollen eyeballs, hair loss. Everything will taste like metal. It'll be like COVID times 10 some days. And then you'll be all right. And she still decides to do it and move forward with it. Yeah, she's had enough of Roderick. She's felt like she was, actually in love with him. And clearly he never was. He was just in it for the PR stunt. And that's sort of it. So she leaves him. Okay. So, there was an earlier scene where Roderick had asked Frederick to call the Jersey guys. You gotta call the Jersey guys and let them know to get that goddamn building down. And as Frederick is calling he's calling the Jersey guys while he's at home with his wife, more. And what he's doing, and this is where Verna finally sort of really interferes more than she's done in the past. I feel like in the past she's just sort of presented herself as visions, influencing outcomes, but not really, interfering with them, just sort of being a tool or being there, showing her face and causing people to cause harm to themselves, but never actually causing the harm herself. This happens right after Freddy, and again, Freddy is just out of it now, continues to do coke, and says he needs to get his house. Yeah, my father says I need to get my house in order. Actually, he didn't say that, okay? I said it. I need to get my house in order. And you betrayed me. So, Marla, I'm gonna have to pull your teeth. And so it's implied that he pulls her teeth to torture her, because he's really just lost it. He continues to torture her and feeding her the paralytic agent that, again, I think is the same paralytic agent that is given to, or was given to, the chimpanzees during the Telltale Heart. I mean, I think they gave it to him before that too, though, right? Yeah, right. So the same paralytic that he has been using, Freddy, to torture his wife, is now, and this is where Verna interferes, it's not going to spell his own demise as well, because as he's calling the Jersey guys, hey, hello, are you the Jersey guys? This is Freddy. Yeah, my dad says you need to demolish that building by tonight, otherwise he can't trust me. So I need you guys to just go out there and do it already. Stop dicking around, okay? You know who I am? I'm Freddy. I'm the oldest son. I'm the heir to the throne, guys. Come on. Let's do this already. And as he's doing this, you don't notice this, but he's actually filling his cocaine pouch with that N paralytic that he's been feeding his wife. And he doesn't notice this either. But that's exactly what he's been putting. He's been putting that substance in a little cocaine pouch, which is obviously going to be used to spell his demise soon enough. Well, there is a scene now in this building, in this wall, in front of this wall. I'm missing this. Do you recall where this is? I don't know, but I mean, Roderick has been sitting and drinking in front of this wall sometimes for some episodes now. You're right. And Madeline shows up in one of these instances to try to get him to commit suicide. So she brings Ligodone. She brings the 80s, as she's called them. I brought the 80s for you, baby. And this is the way to go. You're going to be a king. You're going to be a legend. But the only way that this company moves forward is with me as CEO at the helm, Roddy. You got to be my big brother. You got to take yourself out. So drink these 80s with some of this delicious Scotch whiskey thing and just die. So she feeds him these pills. Or actually, she doesn't feed them. Well, she gives him the pills and he feeds them himself. And she's handing him the liquor and the pills. And eventually, eventually the mighty Roderick Usher sees his end. Or so we think, don't we? I'm going to wait here just a second and go back to Freddy's demise. I don't know which one of these is more important, but they both happened. So we go back to the build. And remember, do you remember the building that's being demolished? Well, I think you said it. It's where Perry died, right? I mean, it's why they're trying to demolish it, to get rid of the agent, and Morella was there, and Perry was there. Yeah, it's that building. That's the building they're trying to demolish. So Freddy's there, and he talks to the Jersey guys. Hey guys, can somebody give me a mic? Hold off on the demolishing. Give me 5 minutes. I have to go in here and do something. Something super adult. Very important business. You wouldn't understand because you're such a simpleton. But I have many important things to do, and one of them is inside this building. I'm an adult, okay? And so he gets handed a walkie-talkie and then marches inside the building. And you know what he does? I know exactly what he does. I saw it too. You want to say it? I mean, he just starts urinating in the middle of the building, talking to his dead brother Perry. It's like so stupid and childish. I mean, not unlike him. I totally expected him to do something so stupid, but I mean, the building is going to be demolished, and why would you do that? You're right. It is going to get demolished soon, but that's exactly what he did. He went into the building as a giant fuck you to his dead brother, because his dead brother can definitely see this gesture, and begins urinating. And not too long after urinating, he decides that it's time for a little more coke. So he snorts a little bit. And what does... But we already know something. He didn't snort coke. He snorted N, the paralytic. And he collapses to the floor next to his urine. I would have been more poetic if he fell on it, but I guess, they missed that part. And lo and behold, Verna materializes as a construction worker, telling him that in another life, he would have been a great dentist, but he was so petty and torturing his wife for no real reason. Sure, she may have committed, something that is painful, but nobody deserves to be treated that way. Tortured and having her teeth pulled for a potential infidelity, a moment of lust, which didn't happen either, because obviously we know what happened to her. And she's telling him all these things. You would have been a great dentist. It's ironic that you pulled your wife's teeth out, and here you are laying on the floor, awaiting your own demise. And by this time, Freddy, the only way he can communicate is with his eyes because he's paralyzed. And the building begins to collapse, and she utters to him, well, you should feel lucky, Freddy. Nobody gets to see a limitation, at least not from this angle anyway. And the building begins to collapse, and somehow, some way, a rock gets trapped between a scaffolding and ropes to the point where it creates a pendulum. A swinging pendulum swinging back and forth, inching closer and closer to Freddy. And the building continues to collapse, and the pendulum continues to inch closer and closer to Freddy. And it begins to slice him. Slowly bisecting him. And we can only assume he dies that way. And he can't scream. He can't say anything. And the next thing we see is the building collapsing. So he's bisected and then crushed to death, or crushed to death and bisected. But that's the end of Frederick Usher. Oh man, that's a terrible way to die. That's so lame. Well, I mean, he shouldn't have been in there to begin with, so it's kind of his fault. You're right. Anyway, back to Roderick. He's been fed the 80s, or rather agrees to take the 80s because he's no longer the man he used to be. That carousels getting to him, and he's seeing visions left and right. And this goddamn company needs to move forward. So Madeline, fuck it. I'll take the 80s and I'll take myself out. And he does. And he collapses on the ground. And just when we think it's all over for him, Verna says to him. Well, Verna shows up first and foremost and says to him, "It's not over for you just yet, Roderick." And the mighty Frederick spits out the goddamn venom. Frederick Usher is not going to go down this way, goddammit. Damn you, poison. Damn you to hell. I'm Frederick Usher, goddammit. And he looks at the camera and flips it off. He did not do that. No, just joking. And that's it. That's the end. That's the end of the episode right there. And another really good episode, actually. Now it didn't feel like a copy and paste episode anymore. This one felt really good. Some parallels, certainly. Like we've seen things here before, but really well told. And now we're really getting into the end game of the series. There's one more episode left, The Raven. But this episode, 8 out of 10. Great episode. Great acting, great music, great sets, great everything, great story. That's it. For The Pit and the Pendulum, episode 7 of The Fall of the House of Usher. Did you like this episode? Let us know at Rick's Horror on the socials. At Rick's Horror on the Instagrams, at Rick's Horror on the YouTubes, at Rick's Horror on the Twitter or the X, at Rick's Horror everywhere and anywhere. We'll catch you next time, and good night.